prayer who is assigned today. Can you please come in front and lead us in prayer? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Good morning, class. Yes, it's nice to see you again. So before anything else, I'd like to check your attendance. Wow, nobody's absent today. So now I'd like to remind you with our classroom rules. So everyone, can you please read? Always do your best. And for nurture kindness, and another N for never stop learning. I hope that you will apply this and observe this in our discussion, all throughout our discussion, so that we will have a smooth discussion. Okay, so let's have a quick recap on what we have discussed last meeting. Yes, you can recall what we have discussed last meeting. Yes, Erica? That's right. Last meeting we talked about students or products of broken families and street children. Now, after learning those information and gaining that knowledge, what did you do? Have you applied it in your real life? Yes? Joy? Wow, Joy applied it in her real life. That's the goal now. We don't end learning inside the classroom. We apply it in real life situations. Okay, so for today, we will have another lesson. But before anything else, I'd like you to get any clean sheet of paper and answer these questions. Okay, if you haven't encountered such student, just try to imagine the situation. Okay? Now think back to your elementary days. Was there ever a classmate who seemed different? Quiet, skipped classes, had visible bruises? Ever wonder what he or she is going through? Now fast forward to your future self as a teacher. What would you do if you knew that that child needed help? Okay, time's up. Okay, Nina, can you please come in front and share your answer to the class? Wow, let's give a hand to Nina. Another one, how about Jewel? Okay, can you please come in front and share your answer to the class? Wow, let's clap our hands for Jewel and Nina. Okay, so based on the activity, what do you think will be our lesson for today? Yes, Jerry. That's right. Today we will be talking about students who are facing hardships in life. So those students, we can call them students who are victims of abuse. So for today, we will be talking about OMG. Victims of abuse. So if we can recall, inclusive education is not only about, it does not cater only gifted and talented learners, children with disabilities, but also those students who are facing hardships in life, and that includes students who are victims of abuse. So there are many kinds of abuses, but today we will just focus on two. However, at this point, I'd like you to take a moment to observe a day in the life of a student. So listen carefully and try to imagine Jill's world, okay? Okay, a day in the life of Jill. It's 6 a.m. Jill wakes up to a sound of shouting. It's loud, angry, familiar. He dresses quickly and quietly. At 7:30, he walks out the door without breakfast. No one notices. By 10 a.m., he's in class. The teacher asks a question. Jill knows the answer, but he avoids eye contact and stays silent. At lunch, he eats alone. Not because he wants to, but because no one asks him to sit with them anymore. When the school bell rings at 4, he doesn't go home right away. He hides behind the school building until most people leave. Then he walks back slowly. Now, what kind of student do you think Jill is? Yes, mate. Maybe Jill is someone who is facing hardships in life. What may be happening in Jill's life behind closed doors? Yes, Roxanne. Maybe not. Jill is facing emotional problems, family problems, and whatsoever that we don't know. Now, if you were Jill's teacher, what would you feel responsible for doing? Yes, Rebecca. Okay, wow, Rebecca feels that he has to provide help, unnecessary help, and to check up on him as his teacher. Okay, so Jill's story isn't loud. No, there are no dramatic scenes. However, every part of his day reveals something quietly troubling. So these are the kind of signs that most students shows, especially those experiencing something deeper, something painful. So today we'll talk about students or victims of physical and sexual abuse. What this is all about, how it affects them inside the classroom, and what is our role or our responsibility as teachers. Okay, so before anything else, before we go on to our discussion, let's first read our objectives for today. First, define physical and sexual abuse. Next is demonstrate the appropriate accommodations needed for a specific characteristic possessed by victims of physical and sexual abuse through a role play. And lastly, develop empathy, compassion, and a sense of responsibility towards learners who may be victims of abuse through an activity called Learning Lives. So I hope that these objectives will be achieved after our discussion. Okay, can I expect it from you? Good job. So let's all work together to achieve those objectives. So let's first discuss physical abuse. So what is physical abuse? So please read all together. Physical abuse is any intentional act causing injury, trauma, bodily harm, or other physical suffering to another person by bodily contact. So from the term physical abuse, it includes bodily contact. So it may be trauma, an injury, bodily harm, or other physical suffering. Now, it's not about that. Ginapik ikaw or sumbag ikaw o very light na joke, physical abuse na siya, ma'am. No, it's not that. It's something serious na kanang makabantay na there are bruises or constant shock, frequency and intensity is the key there. Na grabe kaayo ang pagbunal kay kada adlaw na malaman ni ang intensity pagod kay dili na siya for discipline purposes. So that we can consider that physical abuse. Now, what are the causes of physical abuse? First, history of abuse in parents or caregivers. So most especially inside the household, if your parents experience abuse from their parents also, so there's a great possibility na mapass lang siya into the child or sa ilang mga anak. Kaya maybe they kanang trauma bitaw, so it's a generational curse. Na if dili siya ma-break or dili siya ma-overcome with the parents, possibly into their children, abusive ginawa sila. Next is mental health issues or substance abuse in the household. So this is very common na if ever imong mama or papa is prone to substance abuse, any substance, alcohol, drugs, or whatsoever, if kagamit sila ana, especially not in a good way, abusive na nilang paggamit, so there is really a possibility na ang bata, masakitan dyan siya if ever na ay mga talk in the family. So if dili ganun ang parents mo, diba, kabantay mo if the parents are exposed to substance abuse, init ilang ulo sige. So tendency ang mga bata mo maburuhan. Next, lack of parenting skills or knowledge about child development. So we know that child development is it's hard. Okay, you have to be responsible growing the child from infancy into adulthood. So especially in toddlers, it's very difficult if you are not aware how to address the mga needs of the child pag mag-tantrums. So if you have lack of knowledge sa parenting skills, obviously masakitan dyan yung mga bata, not in a good way, not in a discipline context. Next, poverty and unemployment. Of course, if walay kwarta, walay trabaho ang parents, very good ang balay tendency, ang mga bata mo masakitan. Next, weak child protection systems. I agree. Do you agree with this? Yes, I guess we all agree. Because very weak ato ang child protection systems, wala kaya siya itagaan mo kanang grabe bitaw mo weight if you commit child abuse. Next, cultural beliefs that tolerate corporal punishment. So it's okay to discipline a child. Bunala na sila it's a no-no because it is a sign of child abuse, physical abuse really, na grabe na kayo ang pagpunan because of that cultural belief na kami galing sa una, yung anak, dapat punalan dyan ang bata para makulikid na siya, kaya hindi na siya kaya istoryahan lang. So those cultural beliefs na napasa pa from generations to generations, that is also a cause of physical abuse. Now let's go on to the characteristics. First, physical injuries and pain that lead to frequent absences or difficulty participating in physical activities. So first and foremost, that because this is physical abuse, usa jud ang pinaka-characteristics, usa ka pinaka-common na sign, physical injuries, bruises. That's the most visible sign. So if you see that ay mga bruises anywhere ang bata, most probably that's a first characteristic of someone who is undergoing physical abuse. Next, fear of authority figures or punishments. So kapag nagkaroon ng trauma, nila, if makita sila ng mga authority figures or punishments inside the classroom or whatever, wherever it may be, if that is kanang murag makakos nila o trauma nga dili siya beyond what is normal. Di ba? Kung makita tayo mga punishment niya, okay naman, makatok man dapat. At some point, if grabe ang impact sa kabata, if they see those authority figures, maybe that child is experiencing physical abuse. Next, hypervigilance and constant alertness. Sige na silang alert, sige lang bitong gamata ang mata. Sige silang vigilant on what is going on in their surroundings. That's because the trauma lagi if ever pasakitan ka, sige, sumunod sige, pasakitan ko ani, sige kang alert sa iyong mga tabo sa surroundings mo. Next, aggressive or defiant behavior as response to trauma. So sila kay aggressive sila, defiant sila, like, what do you mean by that? Mura sila ka mga, dili bitaw sila musunong sa usay ang gusto ipagbuhat. That's being defiant ka na, oh my God, hindi ko maakuha ang tamang salita. So yun, they are, what do you mean by this? Mura sila sa usay ang gusto. Aggressive bitaw sila na, if muli mo ipagbuhat nung dili sila that's also a characteristic of physical abuse. Next, difficulty trusting adults or peers. This is very common because if you are someone who is experiencing physical abuse, it's so hard to trust, especially if those inflicting of pain is your family. So how can you trust other people if those imuhang first pinakauna na dapat salingan ng your family is inflicting pain towards you? So, diba? Next, emotional distress manifesting as anxiety or depression. So, not because physical abuse siya, dili siya makakause of impact towards your emotions. So, if ang bata naman, sige na siya depressed, sige siya. But this anxiety or depression is very subtle. Hindi na siya mabantayan. So, we have to be kind, we have to be observant as future teachers, no? As future teachers, you have to be observant to your students because some might be noticeable, but some are very subtle. Hindi na sila mabantayan na bata ay experiencing physical abuse. Now, more of that characteristics and causes, let's go on to the accommodations. What should we do? Because this is the goal. What should we do to cater those students? What should we do to provide help to those students? First, preferential seating arrangements. Of course, very common. Kung asa sila gusto mo lingkod, okay, dito, ipalingkod sila dito kay maybe because kana nga lingkuranan or kana nga part sa classroom, that's where they feel safe. So, let them. Next, flexible deadlines and workload. So, let's not add to the trouble of the students face now, di na face ang students. Let's have flexible deadlines. Next, sensory calming tools. So, as I said before, they are aggressive. So, you have to think of ways, sensory calming tools, maybe music baka na makakam nila, or something else na mura makafeel sila makalma sila because they are aggressive. Next, private access to counseling. So, dili siya public access to counseling na dahil mura physical abuse kaya pa-access ka na dito sa sound, kaya mag-talk mo dito ni no. It should be private. We should still respect their privacy. So, So if it's sila ganahan mo voice out, because this, especially students na facing abuses, they are very silent about it. Hindi sila gusto i-share sa kanan because hindi sila ganahan magpapag, but because they don't want to expose it. Muna ilang i-undergo, but they are denying it. But we cannot blame them, so we should provide private access to counseling. Next, modified physical activities. So if yung activity ha magtumbling-tumbling, so maybe we can have a modification of that. We can find ways to maka-cooperate with how sila fully in physical activities sa mga classes na hindi po ma-compromise sa ilang ipangpatay sa lawas. Now, how about the classroom strategies? First, build trust in the court. So I've said it, diba, una where they have trouble building trust with peers and adults or other higher ups. So we should provide a learning environment where they can build their trust slowly. Next, promote emotional safety. So let's not just promote physical safety, let's promote emotional safety where they will feel that they are safe to express their emotions. Nobody will judge them. That everyone is willing to lend a hand. Next, encourage positive social interaction. So this is very common because these individuals tend to isolate themselves. So we should encourage a positive social interaction by making maybe by group activities or group discussions, group studies. By that, we can promote positive social interaction. Next, teach coping and self-regulation skills. So for example, aggressive behavior. So let's teach them how to cope that, how to manage those emotions. For example, inhale, exhale, diba? Slowly think of something na more ganahan, think of something you love, diba? Let's teach some coping and self-regulation skills. Next, collaborate with support services. So we cannot do it alone because teachers, as future teachers, we are not experts. So we should ask for help, especially to those na kanang expert on this, like the SWD, LGUs, so we should collaborate with them. Okay, so do you understand the physical abuse? Okay, so let's now go on with another type of abuse, that is sexual abuse. So trigger warning for those students who might find this discussion disturbing and troubling. So let's start. Sexual abuse is any sexual activity that occurs without consent. So let me highlight that word, without consent. So anything that is any activity, sexual activity na walay consent, a touch, or anything else na wala kang ganahi, kaya walay consent nimo, that is sexual abuse. What are the causes of sexual abuse? First, desires. So those luscious desires na wala sa lugar, not appropriate. So it's not about the victims, no? It's not about sexy sexy man muna siya mo siya na sexual abuse. Sige naman siya pa-short, pa-short mo siya na sexual abuse. No, it's not that. It's about the abusers. It's their luscious desires that are not appropriate. Next, history of being abused. So this is also napananakalinihan sa physical abuse. I've already talked about this. Next, substance abuse also, especially those drug users. This is very common in the Philippines. Those drug users, or even alcohol gabi ka drunk na mga tao, kadadaw na lang sige inom, high lang sila, dala sila sa tawang pamutok. So that's the reason not just sexual abuse, that's the reason mga rapes na nakahitabo. Next, parental absence or neglect, of course, especially those children na kinahanglan of guidance from parents. If wala ang parents, and then isalig na sila bisag kinsa, so that is also a risk factor na naay mga sexual abuse. Next, lack of sex education. This is why we are striving to have that sex education to be incorporated or to be integrated in a classroom setup. Because sex education is really important because it gives knowledge to students on what is right and what is wrong. If that certain touch, kaya hindi siya maayo, but then if lack of sex education, na okay na dahil ka pong murag angkol mo ito na ka, auntie mo ito na ka, kanang
family mo siya man sabi na ko, okay naman ko yan, ikat-ikat na ako. No, because if those touches is not you are not comfortable with it, you can actually say that that's a sexual abuse. Next, failure to act on warning signs or disclosures. That's what I've said earlier. If dili ka makabalo nga, ay, wrong na dito, mura na-cross ang boundary, mura sayop na kung yung ikap-ikap na ako. So, magpadayo ka po ka, wala ka wala, masayop din siya. So, if ka failure to actually notice those signs will lead to more abuses. Diba? Magpagrabe na naman siya. Kaya wala na naman siya nakikita at the early stage pa. Next, characteristics of sexual abuse. First, sudden changes in behavior or mood. Dili ka topak ka dyan. Toyo, naging siya ang mood di kaayo siya. Dili ka na nga. From okay pa mo karon sa imong mga uyab na pagkaunimong niya kay away na mood. Dili ka na level na. Kanang commercial ka na public ka siya inside the classroom. Then, there come a time na nagkalit na siya distance sa himself or nagkalit na siya kawala sa passing, no? So maybe that's a characteristic of someone who is experiencing sexual abuse. But let's not jump into conclusions. That's absurd. Next, fearfulness or hypervigilance. So this is also discussed earlier by Rehan sa physical abuse. Grabe ka alert o grabe ka fearful sa surroundings. Next, low self-esteem or feeling of worthlessness. So I've seen this. I know familiar sa ato ng characteristics of someone who is experiencing sexual abuse. Kaya makita ko na ito sa TV, no? Someone who is being sexually abused. Kaya mas feeling worthless sila. Murag ang ilang pagkatao na wala mo dyan believe. Next, difficulty trusting others. Of course, heightened anxiety and depression impacting academic performance and attendance. So, murag honor siya, magtaas ka siya, nice ito siya performance sa classroom, pero may balik pa siya kahapla. Maybe na is something na hindi experience ka na bata. Next, sudden drop in academic performance or loss of interest in school. Next, frequent absences or tardiness. Okay, wala naman siya interest na sunod sa klase, kaya feeling niya wala naman siya work, so di na siya magkipan sa classroom. Frequent na ayang absences. Tapos ato una, sa araw, nagduwa ka simana, sa kapulan. Next, difficulty concentrating or completing tasks. So, wala sila yung concentration na yun. Kung occupied ng brain ikaw, kung siguro sa trauma, kaya nagkaka-experience. Next, avoidance of certain people, places, or activities which can kabuhig sa ilang trauma or pabalik sa trauma na ilang na feel. So, avoid certain people, places, or activities. Next, isolation from peers with withdrawal from social activities. So, i-isolate nila yourself. I've already said this na fearfulness, difficulty trusting others, which lead to isolation. Dito sila ganun ng social interaction. So, what do we do with this? What are we going to do to cater the students, address these issues in the classrooms? First is open communication. So we have to communicate with them. Dili pa, sige, open communication, sige, dili pa sa classroom ang communication ka. No, it's not that. We should be open-minded sa communication nato. Dili kita na to, i-close ang possibilities. I-assumption, mag-assume na lang na, ay, basta siguro pa sige siya kasi sila no, dili na. We are open for them, for their ideas. So it's not our stories with them. So we should be open-minded. Next, safe physical environment. So we should encourage an environment that is safe for them. Makafeel nila, pagsulod nila sa kaso, kung I'm safe in this room. Next, modified participation in sensitive topics. So for example, yung topic ng sexual abuse. So dito po, di mo siya puso nga, hoy, di mo, duty hack, or recitation, di mo. We can modify the topic. We can provide other things para fully participate sila sa ano. Let's not force them, especially if those topics are sensitive for them. Next, private feedback and redirection. So, private feedback kay wala na gani, low na gani o self-esteem. Inside the classroom, yung buka bubo, tsukang bataa ka, ay na nag-eskwela. magkabog sa imong estudyante. So we should, if naaman siguro yung mga feedback na dili kaayo nice bitaw, like if dili kayo nice ang kita performance, we should do it privately para po dili masamot ka low ilang self-esteem. These days sila makasamot ka, what and confidence. Next, classroom strategies. First, use neutral and non-touch-based reinforcement. This is very important. Non-touch-based reinforcement. Because maybe if mahikap ka na nila, they are very sensitive to that because of the trauma they are experiencing, they have experienced. So let's not use kanang touch-based nga. Okay na no. So let's avoid that. Next, avoid triggers in language and content. So avoid, di ba, makatag trigger warning kung imuhang istorya and very sensitive for them. So you should be mindful inside the classroom. You have a variety of students. So you should be mindful of the language that you will be using and the content of what you're going to talk about. Next, encourage healthy boundaries and consent language. This is very important. Boundaries and consent language. For example, excuse me, can I touch you? Excuse me, can I get this? Excuse me, can you? Diba? This is our consent language because we should encourage healthy boundaries. And naka-experience mo na sila sexual abuse, so they are very sensitive on that. I-intrude, ilitaw ilang ng privacy or personal life. So we should, dili ka lang, tabi kayo friendship, tabi ka kabanda man ang friends lang, wala na boundaries. So that's not good, especially if a student is going through sexual abuse, experiencing sexual abuse. Next, implement a cool-down system. So implement a cool-down system kay if mag-trauma siya or mag-trigger iyang kanang trauma. So we should, as a future teacher, you should handle it well. So by having cool-down systems. Next, reframe mistakes as learning opportunities. So that I've already said this na grabe nakalow ilang self-esteem and they feel like they're worthless. So let's reframe those mistakes as learning opportunities. So let's tell them it's okay to make mistakes. Better than next time. We can improve next time. There are many next times. Next, use affirming and grounding language. So you should affirm them. You're doing a great job. Diba? You are doing it well. Diba? You're doing well in life. You're doing well in class. And grounding language, simple language. You can, wow, break a leg. No, it's not like that. Good job. You can do it. Good luck. Fighting, kaya, laban, tanan ng words na feeling mo comforting sa iyaha and maka-feel siya nga she belongs and she is safe, he or she is safe. Use that words. Okay, so do you understand sexual abuse? Okay, no more questions, clarifications? If not, so let's have an activity. Let's have a group activity. Okay, the class will be divided into two. So each group will role play a scenario wherein there is a teacher who recognizes warning signs and a student who is showing warning signs. Okay? So this will be group 1 and this will be group 2. So in your role play, there must be an accommodation or a strategy. Okay, so after the presentation, I will ask 2 questions. What is the characteristics being shown and what are the classroom strategies or accommodations that is observed or given or shown. Okay, so you will be given 3 minutes to prepare and 2 minutes to present your role play. Okay, so listen to the criteria if you want to have high scores. Okay, listen carefully before you go on to your groups. Accuracy of content, 10 points. Application of knowledge, 10 points. Sensitivity and awareness, 10 points. Participation and engagement, 5 points. Clarity of communication, 5 points. Okay? Your 3 minutes starts now. Okay, your time is up. Let's start with group 1. Okay, let's give a hand to group 1. Let's go on with group 2. Let's give a hand to group 2. Okay? Listen. For group 1, you got 47 points. Okay? The accuracy is there. I've seen the warning signs and the teacher recognizing the warning signs and the student showing the signs and accommodation as well. However, the sensitivity and awareness, where ipa-joke naman, wherein it should be taken seriously because that is main idea in the center. Then, draw branches to 4 key categories, that is causes, characteristics, accommodations, and classroom strategies. Under each category, list important points or examples that relate to it. If you see connections between ideas in different categories, draw lines to link them. Use colors, shapes, or symbols to organize your concept map. Don't worry because I'll be providing handouts for you as well as the shorthand papers, and the rubrics is also here, okay? So take note of the rubrics if you want to get good or high grades, high scores. Okay? Okay, time is up. Pass your papers, pass your shorthand papers, I mean. Okay, everything is in here. Wala na nabilin ng band paper. Okay, good job. Okay, now, I know that you have learned something from today. Okay, so to put that in words, I have prepared an activity which is called learning lists. Okay, so listen to my instruction. So I will be giving you a list, and all you have to do is you will write your answer to this prompt. As a future educator, one thing I learned today that I can apply in real life is, okay, we'll put your answer here. In the list, you can write your names or not. You can leave it blank. Basta you will put your answers and you will paste it here, okay? Do you understand? I will be just giving you 1 minute, I guess, diba? Because it's not so hard to put into words now, so you will learn that. Okay? Okay, here are the lips. Here are the lips. Okay, pass it. Okay, are you done? Okay, you can now paste it on the whiteboard. Okay, so let's give a hand everybody for today. Don't have to answer this, but I want you to ponder this question. If a child walked into your classroom, your future classroom, carrying the silent weight of abuse, would they feel safe with you? So this is the question we carry forward. What we've discussed today, the process, the characteristics, the accommodations, the classroom strategies, they are not just concepts. They are tools. They are lifelines. So take what you learned today, not just to your next class, but into your future classrooms. Be the teacher that observes a behavior and says, what pain might be behind this? Because the most effective classroom strategy is to care, and to care consistently. So our job is not to fix their past, but to protect their present and prepare a safer future. One safe space, one caring adult, one informed individual who could be you. So as we close, remember, awareness opens our eyes, understanding opens our hearts, but action is what truly makes a difference. Okay, so do you have any questions, clarifications, violent reactions regarding our topic for today? If not, so that ends our discussion. Close all your notes, put everything inside your bag because you will have a short quiz. Okay, you pass it. Okay, pass it backward. You will just be given 10 minutes or break, 5 minutes will do. Okay, start answering. Okay, finish or not finish, pass your papers in front. Okay, since you are short time, I will just send your assignment in the GC. Okay, but I will read it para may idea ko kung prepare mo kamay. Okay, so choose one of the following options. Option A, reflective journal. Option B, infographic poster. For the reflective journal, write a 1-paragraph reflection on the topic, how can I as a future teacher help create a safe and supportive classroom for learners who may be victims of abuse. Include at least 2 specific strategies you learned. So there is also a criteria. I will just send it in the GC. Next, for the infographic poster, create a simple infographic on a short band paper, can be digital or not, that shows 1, causes of abuse, 2, signs to look for, and 3, what the teacher can do, accommodations or strategies. There is also a criteria, so the deadline will be June 15, 2025 at 11